This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by IBM. Big data at the speed of business.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of Straight Talk Radio. I want to take a moment to thank members of our military who are tuning in from remote locations around the world. Thank you for being with us again. In just a moment, one of the greatest inventors and futurists of our time, Mr. Raymond Kurzweil, will be joining us to give us a peek at where technology is headed and why Google is getting deep into robotics. But before he does, as is my custom each week, let me tell you a little bit about his background. Raymond Kurzweil was born in Queens, New York, to parents who escaped Austria just prior to World War II. Kurzweil grew up in a household which was surrounded by creativity. His father was a noted conductor and music educator, and his mother was an equally accomplished artist. At a young age, Kurzweil became an avid fan of science fiction, and when he was just 15 years old, he wrote his first computer program, a program that analyzed the music patterns of classical composers to generate original music using those patterns. This won Kurzweil top prize in the International Science Fair and an invitation to appear on the television show I've Got a Secret. Kurzweil is a graduate of MIT, where during his sophomore year he started a company which used computers to match high school students to the best college. This was to become the first of many inventions and companies that he was later to father. In 1974, he founded Kurzweil Computer Products, which was responsible for the world's first omni-font character recognition system, flatbed scanner, and text-to-speech synthesizer, technologies which had a major impact on the blind. In fact, these discoveries led to an unexpected friendship with Stevie Wonder and subsequently Kurzweil's invention of the first music synthesizers capable of replicating the sound of real instruments. The fact is, we don't have enough time in our short program today to list all of the inventions Mr. Kurzweil is responsible for in the arts, education, medicine, and most recently in the field of artificial intelligence. And there is certainly not enough time to do justice to the number of high honors and awards bestowed on a man who has been called the rightful heir to Thomas Edison. Suffice it to say, Kurzweil has directly or indirectly touched the lives of every human being on the planet. And now that he's joined forces with Google, we can expect his visions to manifest even faster. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Costa Report a pioneer to whom we each owe a debt of gratitude, Mr. Ray Kurzweil. Thank you for joining us today.
It's great to be with you, Rebecca, and thanks for that generous introduction.
Not at all. Now, I know you're busy, and I don't want to make the mistake that everyone listening has read The Singularity Is Near or has haven't taken any time out of their busy day to think about singularity. So let's start there. In layman's terms, what is the singularity, and what signs do you see that transition is underway?
Well, the key underlying idea is something I call the law of accelerating returns, which is that the power of information technology, for example, its price performance and its capacity, grows in an exponential manner, not a linear manner. And linear growth is our intuition about the future. People expect things to change, but they expect the pace of that change to be a constant. And linear growth, that's our intuition, goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So at step 30, you're at 30. Exponential growth, and this is not true of everything, but it's true of information technology, goes 2, 4, 8, 16. So at step 30, you're at 1 billion. And this is not an idle speculation about the future. The cell phone I'm using right now is 1 billion times more powerful than the computers I used when I was a student. And that'll happen again in another 25 years. It's also 100,000 times smaller. So exponential growth ultimately leads to radical change. And I discovered this some 30 years ago. And so there's very smooth, predictable exponential progression, computation, communication, and other information technologies at that time. I projected them out to 2050. We're now 30 years after I made those predictions, and we're right on track. I mean, the power of computers and the power of communication are exactly where I expected them to be. And it's not just the gadgets we carry around. One industry after another becomes an information technology, and one that's made that transition recently is health and medicine. Biology used to be hit or miss, and progress was linear. That was still useful. We've quadrupled life expectancy in the last 1,000 years. We've doubled it in the last 200 years. But now it's an information technology. We're literally reprogramming the information processes that underlie biology. And thus it's going to be subject to exponential growth. These technologies are now 1,000 times more powerful than they were when the Genome Project was completed, and there'll be another.
Yes, but as you point out, our brains are not exponentially evolving. It's quite inconvenient. I have a brain that is moving very slowly these days, and so all of this this information age is just overwhelmed most of us.
Not really, because one of the unique things about the human species is that we create tools to expand our reach. We couldn't reach that fruit at that higher branch 1,000 years ago, so we invented a tool to extend our physical reach. And we now have brain extenders, like our cell phones, our smartphones, the cloud, search engines, all this panoply of tools that we use where, a kid in Africa with a smartphone can access more information intelligently than the President of the United States could 15 years ago. These are brain extenders. They're getting closer to us. When I was a student, I had to take my bicycle across campus to get to the computer. Now we carry them in our pockets, hang them from our belts. They're moving onto our eyes and our ears. Ultimately, will move into our bodies. Some people have done that already. So these are literally, extending our human reach, including the reach of our brains.
But at the same time, to the human brain, having a million choices is the same as having one. We can't possibly go through a million choices. I think the latest Verizon phone lets you load 200,000 apps. That's really just wasted unless there's some analytical or some filtering device that allows me to get to the app that I need.
That's exactly the point of search engines. We have access to billions of items of information, but search engines help us find exactly the right one. That's what I'm working on now at Google, is to make search engines more intelligent, so they won't just be looking for the right words. They'll actually understand the meaning of documents. But we have these sort of brain extenders that do have access to billions of pieces of information and find just the right combination of knowledge, to help what you're interested in. And ultimately, we will actually expand our brain capacity, because we will extend our mental capacity into the cloud. I would argue we're doing that already, even though the devices are outside our brains. But ultimately, we will be able to, expand the size of our neocortex, which is where we do our thinking, with becoming a hybrid of biological and non-biological intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've even talked about the fact that we will be looking at nanobots in our bodies that would eliminate fat and give us the right nutrition and avoid certain diseases.
Right. Now, we can see the forerunners of that. There are people who are putting computerized devices in their bodies and brains, generally for serious medical conditions like Parkinson's disease. You can put a computer connected right into your brain, download new software to this neural implant from outside the patient. These require surgery today because they're pea-sized. They're pretty small, but they're not the size of blood cells. Another very predictable exponential trend is the shrinking or miniaturization of technology. So these things will be the size of blood cells in the 2030s. One application, for example, will be to extend our immune system. Yes. We have intelligent little devices the size of blood cells. They're called white blood cells, which are actually intelligent little machines, and they ferret out enemies like bacteria and destroy them. But they have limitations. It doesn't recognize cancer, for example. It thinks that's you. That doesn't work very well with retroviruses. So we can create a synthetic white blood cell that will sort of overcome these limitations and will destroy all pathogens and ultimately destroy all disease. I used to call that the killer app of nanotechnology, but that was not a good name for us.
Unfortunately, we have to take a short commercial break, but stay right where you are. We'll be right back with more of the future with Ray Kurzweil. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Did you know that every day we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data, and that 90% of the data in the world today has been created in the last 2 years alone? This data comes from everywhere, and it affects everyone. This data is big data. Big data is all data, and it's more than simply a matter of size. Big data represents an opportunity to uncover new insights, make your business more agile, and answer questions that were previously beyond your reach. IBM's Big Data platform uses sophisticated technologies and patented advanced analytics designed to complement your existing information infrastructure. The IBM Big Data platform allows you to get started quickly today and expand to address more complex problems tomorrow. It doesn't matter where you start, it matters that you start. Find out how IBM can help you turn big data into a competitive advantage by visiting ibm.com/bigdata today.
If you listen to the news today, you might come away with the impression that our biggest challenges are political and economic. But if this were true, then countries which have different political and economic systems would be facing different problems. But they aren't. Every government and every nation is struggling with job creation, debt, immigration, climate change, terrorism, healthcare, energy, and wild swings in financial markets. So something else must be going on. That's why I'm inviting you to get a copy of The Watchman's Rattle, a book which shows how the Roman, Mayan, and Khmer empires once faced similar challenges and what we can do to avoid their fate. Visit RebeccaCosta.com today and get a copy of The Watchman's Rattle, because once you do, you'll never look at the world the same way.
Enjoy chocolate of all types at the 6th Annual Santa Cruz Chocolate Festival, Sunday, January 20th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Coconut Grove on the Beach Boardwalk. Sponsored by the UCSC Women's Club, proceeds support re-entry student scholarships at UCSC. Enjoy the silent auction, wine tasting, the Santa Cruz Derby Girls, and cupcake decorating. For more information, check santacruzchocolatefestival.org.
Essential oils have been used for thousands of years by ancient civilizations, some oils even mentioned in the Bible. The secrets of the ages are now available to you through Essentially Yours, an aromatherapy and essential oils workshop. You'll learn how to use these oils for treating a variety of health challenges, from scrapes, infections, digestive problems, and even depression. The Essentially Yours workshop is uniquely designed to teach you the healing arts of essential oils. Your instructor will be Brenda Wright, an internationally renowned aromatherapy essential oils expert. Each attendee will learn how to use essential oils to deal with health challenges and household uses. This 2-day seminar will be held Friday, January 24th and Saturday, January 25th. Space for this workshop is limited, so register early by going to the web at legacyoils.info. That's legacyoils.info, or call 800-910-1196. That's 800-910-1196.
Hey, I'm Ethan Behrman. If you want to break free of the groupthink that infects society today, tune in to the Ethan Behrman Show. I not only tell you what is going on in the world, but present solutions. Listen to the show this week as I discuss politics and healthcare with 3-time Massachusetts Governor and Democratic presidential nominee Michael Dukakis. I'll be taking your calls while presenting ideas that are left, right, and forward. Listen to the Ethan Behrman Show. This Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on AM 1340 KOMY.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is futurist and inventor Mr. Ray Kurzweil. And before the break, we were talking about the miniaturization of robots, which will soon allow us to inject these robots into our bodies, and they'll act as uber antibodies, preventing and eliminating disease. Now, continuing along those lines, I believe you also predicted...
just to clarify, I
Yes.
wouldn't say it's soon. I mean, this is some decades away. What is soon is having these devices very close to our bodies, on our eyes, in and around our ears, on our wrists, so that we're getting more and more intimate with our technology. And this is a general trend because, as I mentioned, when I was a student, the one computer was across the campus. So we're going to be using multiple computers that are kind of part of who we are, even if they're not literally inside our bodies, and that is happening soon.
Well, absolutely. I'm an evolutionary biologist, so anytime someone says decades, that sounds like a blink of an eye to me.
Perspective.
Yeah, continuing along those lines, I believe that you predict that it also won't be long before we're able to upload the contents of our brain to a computer and use a holographic image of ourselves to allow us to live, learn, and perhaps function in a virtual universe. In other words, our consciousness could continue even after this biological spacesuit that we're in fails. Can you speak about that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, that's even further off, but I mean, right now we go around and we have very important information to us, which is, all of the information in our brains reflecting the structure of our neural connections and all the neurotransmitters. And that's information just like information in your cell phone, but unlike your cell phone, it's not backed up. Mm-hmm. And people will think it pretty remarkable 100 years from now that we actually went through the day without backing up our mind file. That will be feasible.
I need that backup, by the way. I need it desperately. Are you working on that?
Well, I think we all are for advancing technology. That's a 2040s or 2050s scenario. But I think that the way that's going to happen is we're going to expand our minds by extending it with technology. We'll be thinking partly in the cloud, and we'll be a hybrid of non-biological and biological intelligence. That's 2040s. Mm-hmm. And of course, the non-biological part will be backed up just as it is today, and that part will grow exponentially. So ultimately, that will dominate.
Well, now let me ask you something. You joined Google in 2012. So why do that? I mean, I can understand why Google would benefit from having you on board, but what was in it for you? Well,
the project in which I've had the most passion for literally 50 years has been creating artificial intelligence. Actually, I wrote a paper 50 years ago about that, about how I thought the brain worked and how to build artificial intelligence based on these biologically inspired methods. And then I wrote a book 50 years after that, which was in 2012, How to Create a Mind. And Larry Page read that and liked it. And I wanted to develop those ideas. And we both agreed that the best place to do that would be Google because of the really fantastic Google resources. You want to run something on 1 million computers, or you want to run something on every web page and every book page, I can do that at Google, and there's really no other place I could do that. Mm-hmm. So this is really the ideal place for me to continue this sort of lifelong passion, which is to create computers that have intelligence. And what I'm focusing on is natural language understanding, to actually understand the language on web pages and book pages, what they mean, so that we can base search not just on looking for keywords, but actually looking for ideas.
Yes, and intention, I think, falls into that as well. I'm a little surprised we're even talking about artificial intelligence because we've had so many fits and starts going back to the 1950s. I know we have short memories, but some of the folks listening will remember that we started calling the 1970s the AI winter because funding seemed to dry up for anything associated with even those two words.
What happened in the 1950s? There was a program called General Problem Solver, created at Carnegie Mellon, and it could actually solve mathematical theorems that had remained unsolved for many decades. And so the creators of that program said, within 20 years, these machines will be able to do anything a man can do. They didn't actually mention women, but...
and that's because it would have taken 30 years.
Yeah, well, it's actually... Neither of those things happened in 20 or 30 years, and it led to disillusionment. I've actually I've written about the life cycle of technologies, and very often you have this early over-enthusiasm when problems are not fully understood, and then when those early predictions of victory don't come about, there's disillusionment. I remember the internet crash around the year 2000. It was the same phenomena. So there was the AI winter in the 70s and 80s where people decided, AI is impossible.
Yeah.
But now, and it actually took several decades for us to get over that. Now, with recent victories in artificial intelligence, like the Google self-driving cars or IBM's Watson computer that won Jeopardy game, there's a renewed confidence that artificial intelligence is indeed feasible. And, we saw the same thing with the Internet. There was the boom in the 90s and then the disillusionment with the Internet crash in the year 2000. That's, in fact, when Google got started. So now we certainly see Internet companies that can make money. So we're back in a resurgence phase of artificial intelligence.
Now, we hear a lot of buzz about big data. Boy, there's so many new big data conferences, and that just seems to be the new shiny technology. Do you see big data as a bridge to artificial intelligence?
Well, I think it's one of the necessary ingredients. Actually, some fairly simple techniques, if you have a vast amount of data, can actually produce very good results. Mm-hmm. Like we can do a pretty decent job of language translation with techniques that are not that complicated if you have what are called a Rosetta Stone text, which is translated text in a pair of languages. But my thesis is that if we actually use more sophisticated techniques that are modeled on how the human being processes information and have access to all of this rich information, which a company like Google has,
yes,
we can do an even better job. And so that's what I'm trying to accomplish, along with a lot of other talented people.
It's very interesting how analytics seems to be evolving into artificial intelligence and learning machines. But as you say, this has been a long and rough road to artificial intelligence, and I think we did suffer from a little bit of over-optimism, and hopefully the pieces needed to make artificial intelligence have developed over the past few decades, and so it'll.
Well, I think that's typical of any technology. We're right now in the early enthusiasm phase of three-dimensional printing, for example.
Yes.
So I think all these technologies ultimately come around, but the early enthusiasm very often ignores early problems, and artificial intelligence is perhaps the ultimate challenge, because the most powerful phenomenon in the world is intelligence, and human intelligence has allowed us to reshape our world, and
absolutely,
I believe we're already amplifying it with the artificial intelligence we have today, and that's going to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Now we have to take another break, and when we come back, we will talk about Google's acquisition of Boston Dynamics. You're listening to the Costa Report.
I'm Amy Tobin, cookbook author and culinary expert. Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. Dole has a bounty of berries ripe for the picking. Fresh berries are not only delicious, but some of the most powerful disease-fighting foods available. Researchers have found that berries have some of the highest antioxidant levels of any fresh fruits. So add a handful or two of your favorite berries to your next meal and enjoy their nutritional benefits and natural sweetness in all of your dishes, from salads to desserts and everything in between. For fresh tips and ideas from Dole's berry experts, visit berries.dole.com. And be sure to check out the pages of mouth-watering recipes. Whether it's a sweet and savory blueberry cranberry chicken salad or a simple strawberry sorbet, Dole has the perfect berry to inspire your next berrylicious dish.
With key offices open for re-election this spring, including county registrar and sheriff, ensure that your vote counts. Bev Harris, the Aaron Brockovich of elections and founder of Black Box Voting, will join us via teleconference to discuss the voting process and the potential dangers posed by electronic voting machines. Join us at Freedom Forum, 7 p.m. Wednesday, January 15th, 1900 17th Avenue, Santa Cruz. Free. Donations appreciated and doors open at 6:30.
My name is Mickey Phelps here from Crown Cafe and Scotts Valley Market. I just wanted to let you know that Scotts Valley Market has some amazing prices on meat and produce and, of course, throughout the store. Jared and his crew from the meat department will be more than happy to cut a nice filet mignon to your liking. Also, Scotts Valley Market has an amazing hot food bar, and also we make some of the best sandwiches in town, like the Irish. So, folks, come on in and you'll find out that Scotts Valley Market has some amazing everyday deals. Also, at Scotts Valley Market, be sure to look for those yellow tags. That's where you're going to save a lot of money. And we'll be sure that we are very competitive with other grocery stores out there. What makes us different is that we are local and family owned. So come on in. And while you're there, be sure to ask for Mickey. And don't forget that if you need any catering, give Crown Cafe a call at 831-566-1425. 831-566-1425.
Here's an important message from MZ.
As you know, we at KSCO KOMY have the most intelligent audience in all of radio. By design, because we do not allow stupid people to listen to either station. It is our goal to not only have the most intelligent audience in radio, but the healthiest audience as well. That is why we strongly promote 90 for Life longevity health products, the Healthy Body Start Pack, and Beyond Tangy Tangerine in particular. These products are available during business hours at KSCO Studios at 2300 Portola Drive, Santa Cruz, frequently in conjunction with valuable promotions such as Kay's book, KSCO hats, tote bags, and bumper stickers. Now, because we want to make it easier than ever for members of our audience to become and stay healthy, we are looking for 12 retail businesses within our KSCO coverage area to partner with us in our Optimal Health Quest promotion. If you own a business or know someone who owns a business and would like to participate in KSCO's Get Everyone Healthy program and thereby receive advertising incentives and start to build a powerful revenue stream, send an email to me, mz@ksco.com, with the words health promotion in the subject line. Tell me about your business and I will personally get back to you ASAP.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, my guest today is Ray Kurzweil. And just to finish up on the subject of artificial intelligence, last year the president announced a project to map the human brain, which seemed to me like a major breakthrough. We set out to map the human genome, and that's had an incredible impact on genomic sciences and medicine. So I was excited to hear that we're mapping the brain. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, one comment is the Genome Project is a perfect example of my law of accelerating returns, because the amount of sequencing we did doubled every year during that project.
Yes.
The cost came down by half every year. So halfway through the project, 1% had been done, and critics said, oh, I told you this wasn't going to work. 7 years, 1% is going to take 700 years, like you said, and that was linear thinking.
Yeah.
My reaction was 1% we're almost done, because 1% is only 7 doublings from 100%, and indeed that's exactly what happened. And the same thing is happening with sort of mapping the human brain. I will point out it's not one simple project. There's many different ways to go about reverse engineering the brain, and some people are studying, at the molecular level individual neurons, and some are trying to map the connection patterns. All of this is very useful information, because as we understand how the human brain works in more detail, we can use that as a blueprint or a set of ideas to create artificial intelligence. And that's actually what my book, How to Create a Mind, is about. Mm-hmm. And I actually have a thesis for how the neocortex, which is where we do our thinking, works, and how we can use that to propel artificial intelligence. So it's really a funding program with many diverse approaches, but I think it's very important for several reasons. One is to get these better ideas about AI. Two, to find out better ways to actually prepare the brain. And third, to understand who we are, which is the ultimate goal of the arts and sciences.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's switch gears for just a moment. Last month, Google surprised a lot of folks by buying Boston Dynamics, a robotics company that makes research robots primarily for the military. And many people feel that you were the driving force behind that decision, given your views on singularity. So let me ask you this. Is the challenge now to marry robotics to analytics and then ultimately artificial intelligence?
Well, first of all, there are a number of voices at Google that are advocating artificial intelligence. I am among those, and I think it's a very important direction for Google and other companies to go in, and there's many different aspects of artificial intelligence. My own focus, as I mentioned, is on understanding natural language, but Google really wants to have expertise in all these different aspects of artificial intelligence. Its best known sort of robotics project is the self-driving car, which is actually a practical technology. When Google started working on that, people thought, well, it'd be a nice thing to work on, but of course that'll never work. But it actually does work. These cars have gone 500,000 miles or more without human drivers and without any incidents, which is already a much better record than human drivers. And there's many different applications of robotics that will be feasible. I mean, I can't talk about specific product plans, but you can imagine robotic assistants that would help you clear the kitchen table, for example.
And in particular, places like agriculture, where we're experiencing massive labor shortages. And
already agriculture is greatly automated. We had 30% of the population working in agriculture in 1900. It was down to 3% in the year 2000. It's now down to 2%. So productivity is greatly enhanced through through automation, and this is another step in that direction.
So we see Google moving into robotics. We see you moving into artificial intelligence, and really doing a lot of things that seemed unusual for a search engine company, a company that started out as a search engine company. This seems like fast evolution for even a corporation. What do you think?
Well, I think it's important to know what business you're in. Around 1900, if you were making horseshoes and saw yourself in the horseshoe business, the future didn't look bright. But if you saw yourself in the transportation business, then actually there was a very bright future. So Google sees itself in the business of the intelligent processing of information and organizing the world's information, really for everyone. I mean, right now there's over 1 billion users, but the goal is 7 or 8 billion users, and to process information ever more intelligently. So it's not just search, and Google is, already does language translation, and it answers questions, and it recommends products. So it does a lot of different things to process information intelligently for its users.
For speaking about processing and responding to information intelligently, not long ago, Harvard biologist Edward Wilson commented that we've got Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology, and this is a dangerous combination. And it seems to me that no matter how much technology we invent, if our emotions and our institutions don't evolve quickly, we're in a bit of a pickle, aren't we?
I don't agree with that. I wrote in the 1980s that the Soviet Union would be swept away by the then emerging social network, which was early forms of email over teletype machines and fax machines, and people thought that was ridiculous, that
you were right.
A clandestine network of hackers would sweep away this mighty nuclear superpower, but that's exactly what happened in the 1991 coup against Gorbachev. Communication has always been very democratizing. Like the first stirrings of democracy in the modern world came with, the advent of printing, and we've seen a great surge of democratization during the internet surge in the 1990s. We see the impact now of social networks. So we do harness the wisdom of crowds when we have everybody communicating, and people can share information that leads to better decision-making and more peace.
But you would agree we're not born blank slates. We have, we each carry in us predispositions for territoriality, for violence, for any numbers of inconvenient emotions.
We're part of a society. Steven Pinker had a very interesting book recently talking about a reverse exponential of violence. Through greater prosperity and also greater communication, your chance of being killed today in violence, either state-sponsored or interpersonal, is 500 times less than it was several centuries ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this belies the common wisdom, because don't you listen to the news? I mean, there's violence constantly.
Right.
Well, that's because we have exponentially better information, through programs like yours and the rest of the media and all the online communication. So if there's a battle in Fallujah, we not only hear about it, we're part of it. We see it and experience it. That's painful, but it's a good thing because it actually leads us to pay attention to these problems. There could be a battle in the next village 100 years ago. You wouldn't even hear about it. But we are actually in the most peaceful time in human history, and it's not an accident. It is because of our communication technology and our sharing of knowledge and wisdom. And, it's also true you can have the wisdom of lynch mobs with communication, but I would say the wisdom of crowds is winning out overall.
Certainly, recent history tends to support your view on that. But though we do see that our institutions seem to be lagging slightly behind technology, that may continue to be the case only because technology is exponentiating so quickly. I get a little.
I mean, look at the impact. Look at the impact of social networks on politics today. Even in the United States, there's much greater visibility of what's going on and how decisions are made, and people have much more impact.
Yes, and in particular, the turmoil in the Middle East. Now, we have to take our last break, and we'll be right back with Ray Kurzweil. You're listening to the Costa Report.
50 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. But something you may not know is that Dr. King was represented by the world's foremost speaking agency, the American Program Bureau. The American Program Bureau has a courageous history of representing luminaries, entertainers, and motivators from all backgrounds. From Ronald Reagan, Richard Branson, and Mikhail Gorbachev to Jon Stewart, Michael Douglas, and Desmond Tutu. From A-list celebrities to best-selling authors, cutting-edge business leaders, and the greatest minds in academia, the American Program Bureau has speakers to fit every venue and every budget. When corporations, conferences, schools, and community organizations need an expert speaker, they turn to the American Program Bureau to help them craft an event that will be remembered long afterwards. To inquire about a speaker for your next engagement, contact the American Program Bureau at 800-225-4575 or visit our website at apbspeakers.com. The American Program Bureau, making history one speech at a time.
I don't know about you, but when I'm invited to someone's home, I like to bring a nice bottle of wine with me, and I never know what to bring, especially if I don't know what they're serving. So, Scott, help me out. What's a surefire winner?
You know, a Pinot Noir is a real great wine as a default to take to dinner because it's so versatile, where you can eat it with a variety of fish as well as go the other way towards red meat, porks, ducks.
Really anything. And so what if they like white wines? What do you recommend?
You know, a Chardonnay is always a safe bet because of the familiarity with Chardonnay, as well as I always try to get people to take bubbles and make it not just an occasion wine, but an enjoyment of the wine.
Bubbly wine is, I don't know, it's more festive.
Always more festive.
It is, and it makes the occasion special. So where can people go again to get Caraccioli wines?
They can go to our tasting room in downtown Carmel. It's on Dolores Street between Ocean and 7th. Or you could visit the website at www.caracciolicellars.com.
You know a hero. Hi, I'm Camilla Blutin with the American Red Cross Santa Cruz County Chapter, and we're calling on all local residents and companies to nominate individuals and organizations whose extraordinary acts of courage or community service have made a difference in Santa Cruz County. These heroes, nominated by the public, will be recognized at the Santa Cruz County Heroes Breakfast on May 14th at the Coconut Grove. The event raises money for our local Red Cross to help prevent, prepare for, and respond to disasters and services. The nomination deadline is February 21st. Visit redcross.org Santa Cruz for more information and nominate your hero today.
Hi, I'm Andy, the produce manager at Ben Lomond Market. This week we are featuring Washington apple. We have Cameo apples, $1.19 a pound. Red Delicious apples, 99 cents a pound. Gala apples, $1.19 a pound. And Laura's Fuji apples, $1.49 a pound. We also have California large or small navel oranges, 89 cents a pound, red seedless grapes, $2.49 a pound, and a 2-pound bag baby peeled carrots, $1.49 each. From Mexico, we have fresh jicama, 59 cents a pound. Jicama is a great item for your relish dishes. In organics, we are featuring bananas, 99 cents a pound, red leaf or green leaf lettuce, $1.49 each, and 1-pound bag baby peeled carrots, $1.49 each. We have many more specials, so come check out our great selection of fresh produce at Ben Lomond Market.
Hi, Jacoby here, host of Raising the Standards, right here on KFCO Saturdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Tune in and join me, Rachel, my co-host, our buddy Rick, and some of the most interesting folks in the world as we chat and play the best music on the planet. And remember, if at some point during the program you're not offended, well, you're just not listening. Raising the Standards, Saturdays here on KFCO, 3 to 5.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is inventor, futurist, and author Ray Kurzweil. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an evolutionary biologist by training, and it feels to me that the information age and analytics, pattern recognition, and now artificial intelligence, it's all led up to positioning humans as the first predictive organism. I mean, thanks to machines, we can perform scenarios we could never perform before, and we know when hurricanes are going to come ashore and when a country's currency is in trouble, and even when whether I'm susceptible to certain cancers. And any organism that can predict can also preempt negative outcomes. So I was wondering, in your view, how do these predictive powers factor into our future?
Well, that's the whole point of the brain, is actually to predict the future, although I will say that the built-in predictors we have are linear, because the kind of problems we had when our brains were evolving were linear ones. We saw an animal in the wild and we tried to predict where it would be so we wouldn't intersect it, and we made a linear prediction that animal would continue at the current pace, and that was a pretty good assumption.
Which explains why we're terrible at exponentiation. I mean, you can give the simplest exponentiating problem and we get it wrong every time.
That's exactly my key point, because information technology progresses exponentially, and they're actually fairly similar at first, because linear starts at 1, 2, 3, and exponential is 2, 4, 8. Sounds pretty similar, but by step 30, the exponential trend is at 1 billion, and so people get that wrong, and that's quite a radical difference. But the whole point of our having a brain is so that we can anticipate the future, the consequences of action or inaction. And the big innovation in Homo sapiens is that we have a bigger neocortex with this frontal cortex. We have these big foreheads. If you look at other primates, they have a slanted brow. Mm-hmm. They don't have this big forehead we have that gave us a little bit of additional ability to predict the future and think through the consequences of action and inaction. And then we also had an opposable appendage, our thumb, so that we could turn our imagination about what the future could be into action and actually shape the future. So I could look at a branch and say, wow, I could make a tool out of that, and then I could actually do it. If you look at chimpanzees, they have a similar-looking hand, but it doesn't actually work that well. So these were the evolutionary changes. There were the enabling factors for technology. And technology is really part of the human civilization. It expands our ability to shape the world around us.
But from an evolutionary perspective, just looking at the whole entire history of the human organism, the ability to anticipate a negative or a risky outcome has got to be the greatest evolutionary asset that any organism could develop. And yet it is remarkable how infrequently we use that asset. In fact, it feels unnatural how infrequently we use the greatest asset we've evolved.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, we're constantly thinking through what's going to happen and how we can shape that. And
well, let's just take California for a moment. We've known a huge drought was headed its way. We can see patterns of climate change. We have technology like desalination and any other numbers of remedies we could do, but we seem to be sitting like the Mayans and waiting for the problem to be upon us. And as you say, these exponentiating problems, once they're upon you, they're not easy to stop. This is a snowball the size of a building soon.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I'm more sanguine about environmental impact of energy, for example, because we have exponential growth of solar energy fueled by technologies like nanotechnology applied to solar panels. So we're actually doubling the amount of solar energy every 2 years, and we're less than 7 doublings away from it meeting 100% of our energy needs. And at that point, we'll be using 1 part in 10,000 of the sunlight. So it's not true we're running out of energy, it's just in the wrong form, but we have emerging technologies that will convert it into the right form. And these kind of alarming warnings is part of our method of anticipating the future. I mean, if we didn't have a neocortex and all of the scientific establishments we've created, we wouldn't even know about these problems. So we are aware of trends, and there are technological solutions that are emerging to deal with them.
And yet, from a biological standpoint, unless we see a snake in the road or, these Hollywood films where a meteor is going to hit the Earth and all of a sudden we all join arms and sing Kumbaya and, attack the meteor or the alien from outer space, we seem to be only wired at this point in time to respond to near-term danger. There are very few individuals, I would argue, such as yourself and other colleagues that you work with, who are trying to get on top of future events. Our bodies flood with chemicals as soon as there is a danger upon us, and then we spring into action. It's very difficult to get people's attention about inevitable issues that require maybe longer time periods to preempt.
Well, that's the whole point of the media and the scientific establishment, is to be able to, view the world in a way that we can then harness some of these ancient programs of perceiving danger and respond to it. I'm more optimistic because I see the tools we have to deal with these problems expanding exponentially. And people look at it and they don't see the exponential expansion of the power of these tools. And if I thought linearly, I also would be alarmed about the future. I'm only optimistic because these tools and our ability to solve these problems are expanding at an exponential rate.
You feel that over time these tools will eliminate many of these irrational decisions and policies because they will in many ways affect the decisions and allow us to make better decisions. Is that right?
Well, I think we do perceive problems with the future, and the tools to deal with them are getting more powerful at an exponential rate, as we've discussed. So I'm sanguine about a lot of the problems that people are anguished about today.
So I don't know if you know this, Mr. Kurzweil, but you have the honor of having 2 entirely separate pages on Wikipedia dedicated to you. One for your biography and one called Ray Kurzweil Predictions. And on that page, they claim that 102 out of 108 predictions that you made were either correct or essentially correct by 2009. So moving on to the next few years, if you had to put your fingers on a single internet-like transforming change that we might see, what do you think that is?
Well, I think we're going to gain over the next decades more and more mastery over the information processes underlying biology, and we'll really be able to reprogram our biology the same way you reprogram your cell phone away from disease and away from aging. That'll be quite dramatic over the next 20 years. Another trend is augmented and virtual reality. I mean, you and I right now are at least in an auditory virtual reality space. We're together, even though we're hundreds of miles apart, but we'll be able to do that with very compelling three-dimensional visual auditory virtual reality. We'll have augmented reality, so you look around and your glasses will actually, comment on what you're seeing and help guide you through the world. We'll have more intelligent search engines based on a real understanding of human language. We'll have self-driving cars over the next decade. I mean, these are a few things we can look forward to.
Well, before we run out of time, I want to be sure that I ask you how listeners today can stay on top of your work. Do you have a website?
Yeah, we actually have a very popular one with over 3 million readers. It's kurzweilai.net, so KURZWEILAI.net.
Okay,
and
great.
There's a daily newsletter that's free that you can sign up for, which is also very popular.
It's one of my favorite newsletters, and I recommend it to all our listeners that want to stay on top of where the world is heading. Well, that's our program for today, but before we say goodbye, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for continuing to push the frontiers of science. Thank you, Mr. Kurzweil.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed talking to you.
If your station is leaving us after this hour and you have a question or a comment to make about today's program, you can email me at RebeccaCosta.com or send me a note on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and let me know what you thought about our conversation with Mr. Kurzweil today. My guest next week is former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell. From Northern Ireland to Special Envoy in the Israeli-Arab peace talks, Mitchell is one of our country's most skilled negotiators, and he's going to be with us to talk about what it's going to take to get both parties working together in our nation's capital. Now stay tuned for another hour of Straight Talk Radio following these messages. You're listening to the Costa Report.